Aloha everyone, welcome. Today we are going to focus on generating peacefulness inside. And the way that we're going to do that is first with the way we work with our breath, and then the way we work with a little bit of self-massage throughout class. At the end of class, we'll do the Boddhichitta practice where we're able to send all that good energy outward, so we not only nourish ourselves, but the world at large. So with that, we are going to do something that we never do. We're going to start seated because I want you to feel something, and then we'll lay down because I always have to lay down. So please make yourself comfortable. That might mean grabbing a cushion or a blanket. And honestly, this is the first way to generate peacefulness inside, is honoring those little signals, right? Where you're like, oh, I'm fine. I don't actually need a cushion. But there's that little feeling that wants extra support, and we often ignore it. So my hope is today that we listen to that voice. And we invite that voice to support us. Aloha, Bakor. I'm so glad you could be here. This class is for you. I was thinking about you a lot as I wrote this class. Did you get the note to have a tennis ball or some kind of massage ball? Okay, cool. Great. So the first thing that I want to explore is working with the breath. I've been having some kind of exciting breakthroughs with my diaphragm. Oh, Kirtana's excited. All right. Your voice is going to be even louder now. So let's start just by feeling the diaphragm. The diaphragm is the primary muscle of the breath, and it connects underneath the rib cage. Just massage underneath the rib cage, and if your core is too tight, you won't be able to get underneath the ribs, so you might actually need to relax a little and generate that inner peacefulness. And it goes all the way around to the spine. The part that you can't feel is that it literally like bisects the body, so it fills the space under the lungs. And so the breakthrough for me has been feeling more breath come into the back space of the diaphragm. So if it's comfortable, bring the backs of the hands to the bottom ribs, so that a bottom attachment point of the diaphragm. And as you inhale, try to breathe into that space. And if this ever doesn't feel good for the shoulders, you can change the position of the hands, or you can take a break. Just visualize that. We'll have the chance to do it on the back with a massage ball in a little while. Then notice if the cue to breathe into the back of the diaphragm, if it generated an intensity. Today, as we breathe, we're going to try to soften. We can still expand, we can still get stronger, but we can do it with a peacefulness. We don't have to be forceful or willful. And can help to slow it down. And by slowing it down, you'll actually allow more of the diaphragm to expand. And take a couple more breaths into the back of the diaphragm. And another reason it's really important to do this in a gentle way is if we breathe too intensely, more muscles are going to engage in the neck and shoulders, and we're going to create tension rather than strengthen our diaphragm. Release the hands down. Here's the second magical part of the breath. So when you exhale, the diaphragm starts to suction up. It's almost like the top of a mushroom kind of shape. And most of us don't get a complete and full exhale, which means the diaphragm kind of gets stuck and it doesn't fully lift. when you get a full and complete exhale, the diaphragm lifts so much that the rib cage actually tightens and integrates into the rest of the core. So take a few rounds to focus on the exhale and almost imagine that full, complete exhale that draws the rib cage towards the center. And if it's helpful, you can use hands there or just feeling. It's interesting about the diaphragm is there aren't a lot of sensory receptors, probably because it get annoying to feel every single breath you take all day long, but it means it's actually really hard to feel what's going on with the diaphragm. We really are only feeling what's around it. That's how we learn about what's engaging or limited. And so the magic new thing I've been feeling on the exhale is if you ever so gently, theme of class, point the feet as you exhale, you're giving more space to your deep front line, and it actually allows the exhale, it allows the diaphragm to lift a little bit more. And it's really gentle, but it's that little shortening of the bottom of the foot and that energy, but actually the muscle team can lift through the inner thighs, through the pelvic floor, and through the diaphragm so that you get that full, complete exhale. And I think of it almost like this, like I'm showing you what my feet are doing with my hands, like this gentle, just like like closing the cover of a book. Can you feel that? Ballet point, yeah, so the toes point as well. And it's really subtle, like you might not see it from the outside, but you can feel just that little contraction. And that can just be a seed planted. Don't stress it if you're not feeling it. But it is worth exploring. And for the next minute, this is the last breath focus in our seat. See if you can feel both the inhale and the exhale, the back of the diaphragm on the inhale, and that full, complete, toe-pointed exhale. And then see if you can do a little bit less physically so that your awareness drops into that more energetic space. And the inhale is bringing energy into those hidden spots. And the exhale is allowing us to release fully and completely, even more than we're used to. Just 2 more breaths. And we'll transition onto the back, but in our theme, I do recommend spreading out your blanket. It can just be a little bit so that you have a little more cushioning and support. And this actually will give you more awareness of your back body. Make sure your ball is nearby, though you won't need it just yet. And then enjoy the pathway down onto the back. Last night at satsang, Babaji was talking about like how glorious it can be to go to sleep and fully relax and surrender. So if you love that moment or you have another activity that helps you feel that way, try to embrace that complete relaxation that's possible. And then walk the feet in a little bit. Bring your hands to your pelvis, the bones at the front of the pelvis, and just take a moment to relax through the back of the body. Wag the tail a little bit. Feel your feet on the ground. And then start to breathe into that back space of the diaphragm and see if you can feel the bottom rib and the back of the rib cage connecting with the earth. And then at any time you can add on the exhale where you point the toes and the heels just lift a tiny bit, and see if you can feel the rib cage integrating as the diaphragm lifts and releases all of the air in the lungs. And then set the feet down on the inhale. And just take a couple of these on your own. And sometimes when I move in this way that's like so subtle and gentle, it's almost just like a heart beating. And so you can almost feel that expansion and contraction with your whole body, every single cell. And then if your focus allows, see if you can continue feeling the breath in that way as we begin rocking forward and back on the sacrum. So as you rock forward on the sacrum, the tailbone points down and the low back arches. And as you rock back on the sacrum, the top of the pelvis, bottom of the spine connects. And take a few of these rocks. And then let your movement get smaller and smaller till you find that middle space. And hold there, neutral pelvis, and just start to breathe and feel where your breath meets the tension in your core, and see if you can be sweet and gentle in that space. And so the pelvis isn't tucked under, it's just neutral. And then start to play with exhaling and unweighting one foot. And then inhaling, setting it down and switching from foot to foot. And try to feel how this demands work of the deep core. And if it's not demanding work of the deep core, slow it down. And then let's set both feet down, reach our hands towards our heels, anchor the big toes, and slowly start to peel the sacrum away. And as the sacrum peels away, you'll feel a little extra pressure in the bottom of the rib cage where you've been focusing. You can linger there and sway the hips a little to massage that space. And then slowly continue to peel the spine up, lengthening through the back of the neck for Seta Bandha Sarvangasana. Gently drape one vertebra down at a time, and then grab your massage ball. We'll do the same thing. Place the ball at the bottom of the rib cage where you've been focusing. Make sure it's not directly on the spine. And then this is really important. Don't just set your weight down on the ball. Be very delicate, right? So we don't want to just like attack with the ball. We want it to sort of melt into our body. So don't put all your weight on the ball. Use your feet and your other or both of your arms to help support the body, but then just gently breathe into that same area, the back of the diaphragm, and now feel just that little extra pressure with the ball. And again, we're cultivating an inner peacefulness. So even if you feel a knot and you're like, ooh, I just want to go after it, the body just tenses up more with that attitude. We want to work with the body. We want to like coax the knot to release, make it inviting. And really right now we're just waking up awareness. And can sway the hips a little from side to side so that the ball travels towards the spine and then away from the spine, just on that one side at first. And then equal weight in the feet. Lift the hips a little higher so you can slide the ball over to the opposite side of the rib cage. And then same thing at your own pace. And notice if you have a tendency of like, oh, I just really want to push really hard. And try to find a curiosity for what happens when you're kinder to your body, when you're creating a peace inside. You don't have to change anything, you don't have to fix anything. And then move the massage ball to the side for a moment. Hug your left knee into your chest and slowly exhale to curl up so the body presses into the thigh. And then inhale back down. Then we're going to switch up the breath. And the next inhale, come up and see if you can breathe into the back of the rib cage like we've been practicing. And then exhale for that full and complete diaphragm lift. Try pointing the toes. Take a few of these breaths, inhaling up and exhaling, allowing the diaphragm to release as completely as possible. You might even notice that the tongue can suction a little extra on the roof of the mouth. And the next time you release down, keep the legs as they are. Anchor into the right big toe. Let the right knee reach wide and slowly peel the hips off of the mat, lifting into a single-legged bridge. Release the hips down and take a few pulses in single leg bridge. Let the right foot move to where the right knee feels as supportive as possible. Try to feel the right glute getting stronger. And then notice if there's that tendency to like push really hard or intensify, and see if you can do this action in a more peaceful way. You can get even more stronger without over-engaging. Over-engaging just creates tension in the mind and in the body. And release the hips down, and we'll go to the other side. So swap the legs. And we'll start with our standard breath here, which is exhaling up. That's when we normally do our core exercises, right? And then inhaling down. You can take one more like that. And then we'll switch it up and see how it enhances the breath we've been working with. So inhale up, breathing into the back of the diaphragm. And then exhale down, point the toes, full, complete exhale. And do this on your own, trying to use the muscles of the core so the neck and shoulders stay completely relaxed. And it might mean you don't lift very high. And that's perfect. The next time you come down, prepare for single leg bridge, adjust the placement of your left foot, and start to anchor the big toe. You might feel the hips get a little lighter. Slide the knee forward and wide to peel the pelvis up, maybe just a little bit or a lot, and then adjust the placement of your left foot. And slowly take some pulses here. If it feels right, you can inhale into the back of the rib cage, getting that extra contact and massage now with the earth. And then exhaling, pointing the toes, full, complete, empty. And the next time you lower, release both feet to the earth, arms to T. Walk the feet forward and a little bit wider. Anchor the shoulders and just take some nice, easy windshield wipers and see if you can feel the back of the diaphragm as you do this. It might mean you have to rock back slightly on the pelvis or breathe a little bit more, a little lower in the body. And the next time the knees come towards me, roll onto that side, push into the top hand to slowly come up to seated. Grab your blocks, and place them just ahead of you off of the mat or whatever's closest to me. If you haven't hit play on your music yet, you can go to the second track and make sure it's set to loop. Feel free to grab a sip of water. Let your knees come over to the right side. Place your hands over to the right. Press down into the hands and drag the knees underneath you into tabletop. And then walk your hands onto the blocks and let them come to the lowest height or whatever is comfortable for you. Tuck the toes under and start to hinge the hips forward and back. And as they come back, keep weight in the hands and just notice if that integrates the body a little bit more, noticing how the arms and legs stay connected. The next time the hips come back, as you shift forward, step the right foot with you and see if you can use the momentum to make that as effortless as possible. I'm noticing that I want my blocks a little higher, so feel free to try that. Allow the back knee to slide back and a little bit wider, and then slowly, gently start to circle the hips. Now, as we circle the hips here, we're actually strengthening the psoas, and this allows the hips to release a little bit more. So in this theme of peacefulness, instead of having that like push the hips down and strain and stretch, we actually get that same or better actually release by cultivating support. Try to feel how the legs are working together, equal weight in the front foot and the back knee. And then circle the other way. Try to feel how the pelvis can move as a whole and both legs support, one from the front, one from the back, and then the spine just effortlessly follows the movement of the pelvis. Shorten the distance of the back knee, bringing it forward a little bit. Flatten the top of the back foot. Lift your blocks to the highest height. Push your hips forward and slowly roll up one vertebra at a time, allowing the arms to float. And then push down into the left knee so the whole left side body opens. Drop the right arm and exhale to float it, and notice what comes online. If you're doing it right, it should feel like you get a little bit more support and strength as the arm floats. See if you can feel the inhale in the back of the diaphragm. Even here, you can exhale and point the toes. Even though they don't move, it's just an isometric action. And notice how that affects your exhale. And then place the hands down. Lift the back knee and straighten the front leg. Inhale, breathe into the diaphragm. Let the back body expand. And then exhale to point the toes and let the ribs draw together. Release the back knee down, and we'll repeat those 3 movements a couple of times. First, circling through the hips at your own pace, and then rolling up and adding the side bend for the psoas. And then going into Parsvottanasana, focusing on the breath in the way that we've been. If any of those movements feels really good to you, stay there as long as you want. Move the feet around. Start to let this become your own. You can always add anything on. I see a little cat pose in the lunge. That can feel awesome for the spine. And see how gently you can do these movements, how smoothly you can move. And notice any sense of wholeness that starts to emerge. Finish up with wherever you're at. And then we'll meet in tabletop. You might want to turn so you have the full length of the mat. Before we do the second side, let's step back into a plank pose. Bend the knees and then press into the hands to send the hips up. Try to keep a neutral spine here. Really nice deep knee bend. And then press into the balls of the feet to round forward. Inhale into that space of the low back for a puffy plank where hopefully you feel nice and integrated. And then exhale, drop the knees, start to drag the hands back to open through the front of the body. The hips can lower any amount, but you don't want any compression in the low back. And if that felt good, do it a couple of times, pushing back into down dog and then inhaling forward, that nice slow undulation of the spine with the focus at the low back. Drop the knees. You can stay right there in plank or drag the hands back to let the front of the body open. If that feels good, you can add a little hip circle. If that feels like too much, do the same thing with the knees down and just press back to a supported down dog with knees down and then roll forward into a supported cow or up dog. And the next time you're in down dog, pause there and try to do a little bit less, but feel a little brighter, a little more evenly supported. Slowly lower the knees, turn to face me. Walk your hands onto your blocks, whatever height you liked, and now step the right foot forward. Uh-oh. Is this the right one? Okay. I was like, this feels familiar. So we'll start with our gentle circling of the hips, equal weight in both feet. And just in case I didn't say that out loud, it's actually the left foot forward. So pop quiz, did you remember? And try to breathe in that conscious way where there are physical benefits, but then try to feel the energetic benefits of working in harmony with yourself, not trying to force anything, not making the diaphragm move in an intense way, but rather allowing it to fully express itself to the extent that's available today. Change the direction of your circles. And then start to center your weight. Blocks at the highest height. If they're not already, press the hips forward. Slowly roll up. Try doing this on an exhale. Try pointing the feet and notice as you roll up if there's that extra space in the diaphragm. And so as float the arms and then push the right knee down so the whole right side body lengthens. Each exhale floats the left arm and make sure the shoulders are soft. Give the left foot space to walk over to the left. And try being conscious of every degree of movement through that left hand and how it relates to the body. What changes with every degree of that movement? Can you feel it down into the psoas, down into the opposite quadricep and thigh? Release the hands down, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, press the hips back. I'll go sideways so you can see this. Modified Parsvottanasana. If you can get the back heel down, go for it, but you don't have to. Try for equal weight in both feet, and then breathe by inhaling, lengthening through the whole spine, letting the back space fill, soft neck. And then play with that exhale, point the toes, let the diaphragm lift, and feel like a new level of your cat pose rounding. And then we go back to the beginning, and now it's sort of time for you to play. So the back knee lowers. If you want more space here, the foot and knee can walk apart. You can circle, you can figure eight, you can try to write your name with your hips. And stay here for as long as it's useful, and then when you're ready, at any time you can roll up and play with lengthening the psoas through this hip extension and side bend. You can always play with bending the back knee, or even opening a little more, back stroking through the arms. Try to listen to those little cues that your body gives of what it needs, what would heal it, what would help you feel balanced, not just physically, but mentally. And then you can explore your Parsvottanasana. Let your movements help you feel more whole. You are so much stronger when your body works together. Beautiful movements, everybody. And take one more round. And start to finish up where you're at. And then from your Parsvottanasana, walk your blocks over and turn your feet so you're in a wide straddle. Soften the knees, rock forward and back on the feet, and then eventually rock back on the feet so you feel the weight in the heels and you feel your hamstrings start to pull the pelvis down. Push the hips forward, roll up one vertebra at a time, point through the toes, let the arms circle. And then bend the knees, melt forward. Hands can come to blocks or legs or floor. And take a couple of these wave-like movements. And they can be really slow. Or if you want to press a little faster through the feet and let that ripple come up faster, that's fine as long as it feels natural and integrated. And notice a freedom in your movement. A space created not just in the body, but also in the heart as you roll up in this sort of joyful expression. Can even smile a little. And the next time you roll up, pause there, heel toe the feet underneath you. Relax the arms down. You can go to the next track, grab a sip of water, or do anything else that you're craving. And grab your ball. We are going to need to slightly balance on one foot as we massage the other foot. So if you need to come to a wall so that you can support yourself, that's totally fine. And then let's start with the left foot on the ball, the weight in the right foot, little bend in the right knee so there's no pressure on those joints. And then start with the toes. Imagine you're going to pick up the ball just with your toes and let that little like squinchy action happen. And then start to roll the ball across the ball of the foot. And again, notice if you are wanting to just like lay into it and really press, and see if you can just be a little gentler. And then start to roll the ball around back to the heel, through the sides of the foot, the arches of the foot. Eventually, if it feels good, you can bring hands to hips, flex the foot. So this is an awesome action for the ankle here. And then just gently rock forward to apply like a soft pressure. And then you can change where the ball is. If there's any craving or you find a really good spot, stay there. Take some extra breaths. Pay attention to your standing leg. See if you can be a little more compassionate with that space. And then imagine your ball is like a high heel. Bring your shoe underneath you and just put some downward pressure into your high heel, so you're standing on that leg. Notice what muscles engage in the right leg, and you can take a couple of shifts like that. If you want to add the arms in, however feels best for you, you can. Just make sure you're not hyperextending through that knee. And then before we do the other side, step off and just feel your feet. And maybe you even notice a change up into the knee, up into the hip. If you want to explore it a little, you're welcome to lift the arms overhead. You're welcome to explore a forward fold just to experience how that right side might feel a little more buttery or peaceful, or however you want to put it. Are you feeling a difference? Do you notice a difference? Aligned. Ooh, good one. And so now we'll do the second foot. And now that you know the drill, you can do it however you want. No rules, except please try to find that peaceful nature. You're not battling your body. You're not trying to combat the tightness, but rather you're working with it. You're exploring it. When your body feels safe, that's when it can release the tightness. The safety comes from the core support as well as the mind relaxing, down regulating of the nervous system. If you like the breathing we've been doing, you can just be aware of the diaphragm and those fun little bonus cues. And the same thing that the pointing of the foot allows for the diaphragm to lift is also being activated with the ball. So you might even notice that you can get a more full and complete exhale just because we've massaged the tension out of the plantar fascia, and that connects all the way up. We'll take about 1 more minute on this foot if there's anything you did special on the other foot, and then eventually ending with our high heel shoe. I'm adding in a little hip circle. Feel free. And then step off of the ball. You can place it to the side. We're not going to need it again for our standing sequence. And just be with your feet. And just notice perhaps if it's easier to feel your feet, if it's easier to feel contact with the earth. Notice how the legs feel. Notice how your mind feels. And then grab a block, place it at the lowest height ahead of you, and stand behind it maybe about a foot or a foot and a half to begin. Shift your weight into your left foot, lift your right foot and step it onto the block, and then start to twist subtly to the right, and then kick into the right foot to come back to center. And take a few of these, and you can let the arms start to come into the equation. So the opposite arm starts to reach forward as you twist. See if you can feel the outside of the right leg lengthening to allow this twist to be effortless. So you come back, try to feel the back line, the space up from the heel supporting you in a nice tall posture. Equal weight in both feet. Try to feel how the deep core is integrating both legs. And the next time you bend forward, shift the weight, come to standing and allow the left leg to swing. Try to keep the pelvis neutral, which is going to allow the heart to be light here, and it'll brighten the deep core. Connect with your breath. And imagine you're flinging away tension, just letting it slough off of the body, each of these swings and kicks. The next time the leg kicks back, pause there, press the foot down. Notice how tall and strong you can be, nice through the back leg. Gently bend into the front knee, modified Virabhadrasana 1. Bring your awareness through the crown of the head down into the back hip and back ankle. And we're going to take a wider stance in a moment, but I want you to bring this feeling, this energy to it. So shift forward. You can take a couple of those gentle twists and then a couple of swings. And then in a moment, we're going to step back, and you can step back just like you did on the first round, or if you're craving it, you can play with stepping back a little further, but trying to still feel that sense of lengthening and support up through the back heel. And it gets harder the longer the stride is. This time, bend into the front knee. Start to push into the outer back foot for that nice long curve that we did in our lunge before. Option for an arm float. Option to straighten the front leg and lean back a little bit to increase the stretch in the psoas. But try to keep weight in the front foot. That's going to help the psoas be more active. And then come back to center. Shift the weight back. Start to inch the foot off the block and sneak the front leg over the back leg for a modified eagle pose. Don't worry about wrapping the leg here. Try to instead point the knees forward and give yourself a hug with the left leg on top. Take a couple of squeezes and imagine you're like a washcloth and you're trying to squeeze out the I can't think of like a polite way to you're just wringing out the water. And then add your breath into it. And the next time you start to push down, float up and allow the foot to come to either the thigh, the calf, the knee, wherever it feels okay. If it's on the knee, just make sure the leg feels strong and there's no pressure in the joint. The arms can float nice and wide. Stay here. If you feel really stable, you can challenge yourself by closing your eyes. Try to let your breath be your anchor. And then eventually let yourself start to sway. And if you did close the eyes, you might have noticed a little tension building. At least I felt that. See if you can let these swaying movements like release whatever tightness built. And then set the foot down and pause for a moment in Tadasana. If you'd like to close the eyes, you can, and feel gratitude for having 2 feet on the ground and any sense of stability, not just physically, but in the mind. We'll do that same sequence on the other side. So now stepping up with the left foot. And now that you know where we're going, add, subtract, change it up, do whatever you want. But I'll guide you the same way on the second side. So start to just bend and extend that front leg. Try to keep a lot of weight in the back leg. That activates the core, but also will take pressure out of the knee. And then you can let yourself start to twist. The arm swing mimics what happens in your natural walking. So this is a great way to pattern your body, to use your core and your back line as you walk or go up steps. The next time you shift forward, stand up on the block and then start to swing the leg, trying to find that neutral pelvis. And it'll tip forward a little bit, but it's just that trying to keep it balanced is what strengthens the core, decompresses the low back. If it feels good, you can get a little more dramatic with the swinging, just as long as there's no pressure anywhere in the body as you do that. And then for the first round, we'll just take a little step back. First, feel that heel and feel the support rising up the heel through the erectors. Back of the neck can lengthen a little bit, and then bend into the front knee and take that nice, easy Virabhadrasana 1, but find that ability to soften the neck and shoulders because there's so much support. And then shift forward, go back into the leg swings, and we'll take that same energy, but now you have the option to go further if you want to. Try to interact with your body peacefully. You're not pushing it, you're just allowing it, you're coaxing. Equal weight in both feet once you step back, and then gentle bend in the front knee, float the arms up, breathe, and then play with pressing down into the right foot to let the whole right side of the body lengthen. Take a couple of those arm floats to integrate the deep core, and then you've got those options to extend through the leg, to reach back a little bit more, whatever helps you open that psoas space without creating tension. And then come back to center, inch the front foot off the block, cross it over the back foot. Give yourself a big hug with the right arm on top. Now find your drishti, your steady gaze point, and just imagine wringing everything out, squeezing the elbows down towards the knees, sinking the hips back, kind of like chair pose, and then floating back up. You can sink either on the inhale or exhale. They'll have different benefits. Sinking on the inhale will help you breathe more into that back space. And then that would mean exhaling to point the feet rising up, letting the diaphragm lift as completely as possible. And the next time you float up, if that right foot's getting tired, you can take a little break or go right into tree pose. See if you can place your foot hands free, so you're just using the active range of motion in the hip. And then soft arms. Anchor the big toe, that's going to help with balance. Soft bend in the knee, and then option to humble yourself by closing the eyes. Make sure you're breathing. And then set the lifted foot down whenever you feel like it. Release the arms and let yourself fully land in your footprints in the present moment. Bring your hands to your heart and start to step the feet out, keeping a deep bend in the knees. Turn the toes out and let the hips open so you're in a goddess stance, and start to bend and extend the knees a couple of times so that you can let your pelvis lower. Try to feel the sits bones dropping down towards the earth so that they're not rocking forward. And then the next time the hips lower, anchor the big toes. Make sure the knees are going wide towards the fourth toe next to the pinky to allow the glutes to engage. And then slowly start to press down into the left heel to side bend over to the right. Right hand can come to the thigh and left arm lift. Option to drop the bottom arm and breathe into the side body. And then pulse up, reach out, and then exhale the other way. Feel free to stay on one side and explore the side body, or move a little more dynamically here. And we'll take one more moment. If you need to balance out sides, go for it. And then one more star pose, reaching out, soft shoulders. Bring your hands to your heart, bend your knees a little bit, and to your next inhale, extend the legs, reach the arms out, and just let your whole being expand. And then heel toe the feet in a little bit. Bring your block underneath the hips at whatever height is comfortable, and start to wag your tail. Imagine you have like a big horse tail here that you're sweeping across the floor. And then slowly lower the hips onto your block. You can even stack a couple of blocks, especially if that's more comfortable for you and you want like a wider base. That's totally fine. Make sure you're comfortable. You can also do this on a chair. Try to feel both your sits bones contacting the block. Anchor the big toe, hands to thighs or wherever is comfortable. Inhale into the low ribs. Then exhale, point the toes, almost just energetically letting the diaphragm lift. See if you can let the head bobble around a little bit. And then gently, and if this might take some balance, if your block feels wobbly, circle the weight around the sits bones, just waking up more support on the glutes. See if any muscles in your back can release and soften as more support is awakened in your base. And you can reverse the circles. If the body's craving anything different here, you can add on with the arms. You can add on a more side bend or twist. And then we'll come off of the blocks, place them off to the side. Extend the left leg, bring the right heel in, and make sure your ball is nearby. And Bakor, my goal is to make you not be afraid of this pose. So if I cue anything that doesn't feel good, please come out of it or do whatever is best for your body. So Parvata Danu Shirshasana can be really intense. We've got deep hip flexion, a twist, and a side bend. So we're going to try to be peaceful as we approach this pose. First, make sure your base feels comfortable. You can bend the knee and actually grab your ball and place it underneath your hamstring. Think of this pose not as a stretch, but literally a way to massage the back of the left leg with the ball, and just see if that changes your approach. Let's take just a gentle twist and start to shift the weight on the sits bones, kind of like you did on the block. And notice how as you lean from side to side, it changes the way the ball interacts with the hamstring. If it feels good, you can play with pushing the leg down a little bit so the muscular activation of the hamstring presses down into the ball. And then place your right hand off to the side. Move the ball for just a moment, and let's integrate the right side of the leg and the right side body by gently pressing the hips up as you push the pinky down into the floor, and try to feel this like condensing on the right side. And then place the hips down and let everything that's shortened lengthen just a little bit. And take a few pulses like this, trying to feel really strong and connected on the right side. And then keeping that connection as everything lengthens. And maybe just coming up to neutral feels good, and you come here and you don't feel connected anymore. Just try to play in that space. And then as you start to feel safe opening, you're welcome to reincorporate the ball. Calf is a great spot. You've got 3 hamstrings, so it can be anywhere on the inside, the outside, closer to the sit bone, closer to the knee. And so option to take this neutral if the side bend doesn't feel useful to the body, but if it feels safe, come into a gentle side bend and let the gentle side bend help you massage. So it doesn't matter how far you go, it's really about letting that left leg, or whichever leg's extended for you, letting that feel freer. If the top arm gets tired, I love bending my elbow and supporting the base of my skull. You get a little traction and the arm gets a little break and the tricep gets a little stretch. So that's a lot of motivation to do that. But do whatever feels good to you. And then come to the breath that we've been exploring. And just notice the way you're approaching your body. If you feel any sense of harmony or the ability to not like battle it, right? But to just work with the flow. And let's slowly come out and take one last counter pose, but I want it to be a little extra dramatic. So you can push the bottom knee down, slide the shin underneath you, and then point the top foot and allow the spine to extend, allow the heart to open. If the low back feels safe here, you can press the hips forward and breathe just as you've been breathing. And then lower the hips down. And for fun, we'll switch sides with no hands. So come through center. And then you can take a moment to settle in to the setup. Start with the ball, just allowing that knee to bend, allowing the weight to shift a little. And you can stay right here. You can sometimes working with a massage ball in a single point for as long as a couple of minutes can be really useful. So stay here, let this be your time. And then eventually the next step is adding on the twist and just playing with lifting, pushing down into that other hand. Now lifting the hips, you feel really strong. You integrate the muscles that are about to lengthen, and then they can lengthen together. And try to avoid a sense of just feeling the ribs lengthen or even just up from the hip, but try to feel that whole left side of the body, or whichever knee is bent. Try to feel like almost just every place gives a teensy bit instead of one place giving a lot. And you can do that as many times as you want. You can eventually start to play with massaging the extended leg while in the side bend. If you feel really tight or a lot of pulling, try coming out. And the beauty of using the massage ball is you're getting so much nourishment in this right leg, and it really doesn't matter how far you go, right? It just is about working consciously through those movements. And I see someone drinking water, and that is my reminder to tell you, when we do work with this like hydration method with a massage ball, it is really important to drink a lot of water for the rest of the day. It can release stuff that you want to release and encourage it to exit the body by flushing it with water. And take your time, enjoy the process, and now that you know the really fun counter pose, you can always add that in at any time. And it is a back bend, so it is allowing the hips to extend, the whole front of the body to extend. And take your time. You don't have to go there right away. You can add in another side bend. But when you've had enough, you can meet me in Sukhasana. And we're not going to sit here very long, so you don't need a cushion or anything. And this is where we began. I just want you to take a few breaths and just notice. You don't have to use your hands, but you can. Just notice your awareness of that back space of the breath. You can play with that little pointing of the toes on the exhale, and just notice if you can get that full, complete emptying. And we're going to make our way into Shavasana, and you are welcome to play with the massage ball a little bit before you rest in stillness, or you can just go straight into stillness. Pause your music. I like to take my blanket and roll it up, so feel free to take a moment to do that for yourself. And as you recline, just imagine melting away any tension in the physical body, in the space of the mind, in the emotions. You're not pushing it away or rejecting it. You're just allowing your awareness to expand beyond it. And in that way, it might feel less overwhelming. If you're not sure how to use your massage ball in Shavasana, my favorite thing is at the base of my skull. It's called the nuchal ligament that connects to the occiput right at the center, and feels amazing to put some pressure on it. And if you're exploring that, you can almost imagine like you're painting a rainbow with the nose. You can allow the nose to arc from side to side. And you can do that for as long as it feels useful. You can even eventually rest with the ball under the occiput and the chin tucking. And then give yourself this opportunity to experience peace inside. You don't have to reject anything or deny the world. Just give yourself the opportunity to land on your own inner solid ground. And then after this class, as you re-enter life, you will much better be able to support any situation. And if you need help staying conscious, I invite you to notice your breath here. And try not to manipulate it or force it, but maybe you can feel the breath filling that backspace. Maybe you can feel that full and complete emptying and that ever so gentle pointing of the toe. And we'll rest here for the next 10 minutes. Begin to observe your breath. And notice if all the specific focus and massage on the diaphragm has opened anything new in your breath flow. Imagine whatever has unlocked for you is allowing you to draw in more energy as you breathe in. More energy into every single cell in your body. And allowing you to release even more deeply on the exhaling, releasing the grip, the tension, all the things that we hold on to inside and out. And take several more breaths to play with that, the drawing in naturally of energy and the deep releasing of tension on the exhale. And then try to do less and less, so it doesn't feel like one end of the spectrum to the other. You start to feel like a balance point. You can fully feel the breath from the inside, but also observe it from the outside. And then visualize yourself in your most perfect radiant form, sitting in meditation. When anything goes, you can look any way you want. And just try to see a brightness, a radiance, a peacefulness, a joy. And don't just see it, but actually try to feel what that would be like. And imagine it like a magnet, starting to draw you out of your shavasana, and let it eventually draw you all the way into that radiant meditation seat. You don't have to rush, but try to feel yourself being uplifted, magnetized into that visualization. And we'll just take the next moments to find our way into that seat. And whenever you do arrive upright, please grab whatever you need to be supported. Give yourself that respect. And we'll be finishing our practice with Boddhichitta, the cultivation of boundless love, boundless compassion, boundless joy, and usually it's boundless equanimity, but today we'll call that boundless peace. And so to begin, allow the awareness to drop into the heart space. And imagine digging a well down into the inner self. And from this well, we can extract boundless love. It is already inside. And to prime the pump, visualize someone you really, really love. I find that pets are usually the easiest pathway. And try to feel that literal warmth in the heart. Whatever that elicits, try to actually feel it in a real way and breathe into it. And then try to trace that feeling back into the core of the heart. And feel how you have the capacity to expand that feeling of love from the inside out. And just imagine it radiating out in all directions. Sometimes I even visualize the earth inside of my being, so I'm bigger than it. And in that way, my love instantly wraps around the whole earth. Just take a couple more breaths with that. And love begins to unlock the door. You can start to feel compassion, love in action. Feeling that connection point to all living beings instead of feeling the separateness and what makes us different. It's almost like that harmony you found for yourself during practice, letting that harmony connect you to all sentient beings. And feel how compassion allows you to exist fully in the world but not be completely absorbed or drawn into it. It's almost like you can see everything unfolding with a bird's eye view. And just imagine that compassion radiating out. And the love and compassion can dissolve our tension and our negativity and make it so much easier, even natural, to feel the next boundless quality, boundless joy. Try to cultivate or feel that potential arise in you. Let yourself relax and soften and rest in that internal heart space where boundless joy is our natural state. Feel it or visualize it bubbling up, expanding, spreading out. Try to ever so gently smile. Feel a brightness in the eyes. And then this joy isn't just for you. You can share it. And so use the next several breaths to let it expand. You don't lose it. There's just enough of it to go around in all directions. And then give yourself permission to relax. You don't have to generate anything. Feel the state of being that you've revealed in this natural state that always exists inside. And notice any sense of inner balance, inner peace that becomes available. And then let that peaceful radiance brighten and expand and radiate out in all directions. And once again, I invite you to use that visualization where the earth is inside of you. And so all of the energy that you're generating just instantly engulfs the entire planet and all of its inhabitants. And let yourself relax completely, almost like a dimmer switch on a light switch. Just slowly dial it down, landing simply and quietly in the heart. Bring your hands to that space as well. And thank you so much for having the courage to practice and change yourself so that you may have a greater impact on those around you. Namaste. Thanks for being here. Great to see you. Would love feedback on whether you liked the ball or not. Doesn't have to be right now, but that would be useful for me to know going forward. Please let me know if you have any questions. Have a great rest of your evening.